Welcome to our webinar today, everyone. We are so glad to have you join us as we talk about integrating speech therapy in special education classrooms. We're grateful to have you join us to learn from Dr. Kovach. She's got a lot of great experience, and I'm excited to learn from her today as well. We want to do some quick orders of business, review the agenda, and introduce everyone to Dr. Kovach before we turn it over. And today we'll be doing the introduction, the presentation, and saving Q&A till the end. So if you have questions, please put them into the chat. Down at the bottom of the Zoom webinar screen, you'll see a button that says chat. When you click on that, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions to us as moderators, and we can go ahead and keep those questions ready for the Q&A at the end of Dr. Kovach's presentation. So let me go ahead and introduce you to Dr. Kovach. We're so excited to have her here today. Why don't you go ahead and turn on your webcam? We would love to introduce you to the group. Hello there. Dr. Kovach began her teaching career in 1997 and has taught both general and special education across a wide range of settings. She's currently teaching third grade special education and is an adjunct professor in New Jersey. She is the 2022 president of the Council for Exceptional Children, that's CEC. And by the way, it's a great organization. And when COVID hit, I can't tell you how many good things came out of that organization. So thank you for your service. And it is the largest international professional organization dedicated to improving educational success of children and youth, specifically with disabilities. And she's also the 2011 New Jersey State Teacher of the Year, the 2012 National Education Association Foundation Award for Teacher Excellence recipient, and the 2014 CEC Teacher of the Year. We are so grateful to have you with us. We're excited to learn about integrating speech therapy into these special ed classrooms. So we welcome you to this, and without further ado, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I just want to thank Illuma as well for this opportunity to share my experiences in the classroom with integrating our speech therapy, and also for all of the tremendous support and partnership that you have given to CEC over the years. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for that introduction, but I would be remiss if I did not introduce my trusted co-pilot, because usually we are doing these presentations together. And since this is an integrated speech therapy webinar, I have to introduce my speech therapist who I've worked with for so many years. She's my co-pilot in all this. We were talking the other day as to how long we've been integrating speech therapy, and we could not come up with a definitive number. We know that it's been over 10 years. We've been working together for over 20 years. Unfortunately for me, she's retiring this year, so I am truly going to miss her and the work that we've been doing together. She is the speech expert in all of this, so if you do have any questions in regards to speech therapy specifically, I promise you that I will reach out to her and get the answer for you. You can just email me, and then I will find out the answer for you. She is the speech expert, and I'm just the teacher in this. So I will certainly find that answer out for you. So I'm excited to be talking with you today on really what we do in the classroom every day. So what I'd like to do is talk about the benefits to an inclusive speech program, identify the different service modules and how we implement them in the classroom, talk about the roles of the speech pathologist in the classroom, and now in the world of COVID, how we've been integrating our therapies in a virtual world, and then also ways to creatively implement activities in the classroom. So as we start, we talk about the pull-out versus the push-in program. The pull-out is when a related service provider will remove the student from the classroom and go to a different space in the school, whether it be a different classroom, a therapy office, somewhere where they're going to deliver the services other than inside the classroom. And then, of course, the push-in program is where the service provider will come into the room. So today we're focusing on speech, but this can also be applied to any other related services, whether it be occupational therapy, physical therapy, even ESL, academic skills. Any one of those providers can certainly do a push-in program. And then talking about the continuum of service delivery models. Now, our goal as special educators is always to provide our students with the most inclusive experiences possible in the classroom. So when we look at this model, it goes from a segregated to an integrated delivery model, where when you're more segregated, the students are out of the class, they're getting different instruction from the class that they are in, versus when we move down the line to a more integrated, they're in the classroom, they're doing their routine in class, and they're getting the context of class. So there are definitely pros and cons to both of those models, but the main focus is to always look to the student. We want to make sure that our focus is on that student, that student is getting their needs, what they need to be successful, that they're reaching their goals in their IEP. So when we talk about integrating any kind of therapy into the classroom, of course, it's always with what best works for the student. And if a more inclusive approach is not in the best interest of the student, then certainly the other models would be better for them. So I would like to start with you with what a typical day looks like in our classroom. And I'm going to talk about this in terms of pre-COVID. So our original intent for showing you something like this, what we had hoped for was to actually show you video of us teaching in the classroom. Of course, in the crazy world that we're living in, we had secured permission from parents. They were all on board with us creating a video, and we were going to start our videoing on a Friday. The Thursday right before, literally less than an hour before school was ending, we were told that our entire district was going to have to go virtual. So of course that definitely changed our plans a little bit. So I can't show you what a typical day looks like because we were never able to make that video, but I can tell you about it. So our morning starts with integrated speech therapy 4 times a day. Every day we do morning meeting with our students, and it's integrated speech 4 times a day because our speech teacher goes to another school on one of those days. But this morning meeting is our way to incorporate speech therapy, and literally it's every other academic area that we work on with the students. So what we do is we start every day with greeting. Now we have once a week, one student is assigned the role as the teacher. So now actually we have 3 teachers teaching in one lesson, but that student takes the lead of morning meeting. And the first thing we work on is greeting each other. Of course, this is pre-COVID. We work on either shaking hands or giving a high five, and we focus on that eye contact, making sure that they're looking at each other either in the eye, or we tell them to always look in the forehead if you're uncomfortable looking in the eye, but really focusing on those social skills. Then we go into a game where we play, it's called Zoom, where the kids sit on the carpet. And again, we're working on eye contact, social skills, where they literally turn to the person next to them, say Zoom, and go around the row. And then we keep going to see how fast we can go at one time, just practicing getting that eye contact. We do days of the week, talk about the calendar. We count our days of school. We count up to the 100th day of school, and then we count down to the last day of school. This is really good for the kids that have difficulties with what comes before, what comes after. We also incorporate, Pat, our speech therapist, also incorporates some sign language with them. And then new this year, we have started a famous person of the day. And that just started organically with one of our students in the beginning of the year who said, I had a question about a certain person. And we found that our group this year really is interested in historical people. They love giving us their input as to who they want to learn about. And it's a great way when we teach them about that famous person that we also incorporate question and answer with it as well. And then the other part of our morning meeting is our things that make you go, And that is where the speech teacher gives the students a question and they answer that question. Sometimes it's on things that you come across in school, at home, things that you like, things that you don't like, things that you're afraid of. There's a different question every single day. And so our day always starts with morning meeting. It starts, that's how our speech integration starts. Because I am in a language learning disabled classroom, the majority of my students, I think this year all but 2, receive speech services. So it's a great way every day for our students to get their speech therapies. And then for the rest of the day, the therapist comes in based on our schedule and what other students that she needs to work with. And then this is just a sample of how we go about the rest of our day. Usually she'll come in during our guided reading time. So as we're rotating in centers and she's pulling a group and working with kids, or she'll come into a group that I'm working on with guided reading. So it's a schedule that we know, we make sure that we work with every student that needs to according to their IEP. So it's been working really well for us. We've been doing it again, I don't know, we think maybe about 10 years, maybe a little more. And so the question we get sometimes is, what's our secret sauce? What's the key to making our speech integration work in the classroom? And I'm not going to tell you that just yet. I'm going to get to that at the end. But there are reasons that we have found, and also, these are a mix of research that we found and our own experiences that we found of why to integrate speech in the classroom. So the first is that students will learn the skills in the places that they use them. They're able now to generalize as they're learning into the setting where they are. So many times they leave the classroom, learn a skill in a different area, and then when they come back to the area where they need to put that skill into place, they don't have those generalization skills. So here they're learning the skills in the area where they need to implement them. They also have increased opportunities to practice. They are definitely building their social relationships. They are with their peers the entire time. So those skills that we're working on with them, they're working on with their peers at that moment. Their classroom activities are not missed. And what I found too is that it does not disrupt their transition throughout the day, so that we don't have to worry about, okay, it's 12 o'clock, I need John, Bob, and Joey to go to their speech room. It's seamless. The therapist comes in and she doesn't miss a beat, comes right in and starts working with them. There's no time that's lost in going to another room and then coming back. So they get their full time of their therapies. And then what I love is that I can learn from the therapist and then reinforce the skills in the class when she is not there. So many times our kids leave to go to their therapies. I don't know what happens in that room. A lot of times we try to collaborate, we try to catch up, but during the day it's very crazy. We don't have a lot of time. We don't have that opportunity. So when speech skills are being integrated into the classroom, I'm learning them. So that way when our therapist is not there, I'm able to keep going with what she's doing, continuing on with those skills in the classroom. And I've noticed too that for some of our students who get speech, a lot of times their behaviors have diminished because they don't feel like they're missing out on something, where they might get upset that they don't want to leave the classroom, or the move from one place to another might upset them a little bit. So I've seen in some of my students that some behaviors have also been diminished with their speech in the classroom. Some other things that we've seen, our speech therapists can see goals in action and make those changes when they're happening in real time and when the kids are working with her. The teachers and therapists can focus on skills that are immediately useful in the classroom. The therapists and teachers can collaborate and problem solve, and we can do that in the classroom. As we're working with the students, we can, do a quick conversation and say what we're going to do instead of worrying about, okay, what time is it? How can I pop into your room? Can we talk about this really quick? We can collaborate right there. And also assessments can be done across a variety of routines. One area that I found to be so helpful was in our phonics and our phonemic awareness, that as I'm doing assessments with my students, that Pat is also with me so we can tag team and see where they are and how they're doing. In terms of the speech teacher's goals in the classroom, he or she is able to link speech and language together. It improves oral communication. It improves receptive, expressive vocabulary and language relationships. They develop the practical use of pragmatics, taking turns, problem solving, asking questions. We're talking about sequence of events, and we do a lot of that in our reading groups. So when the speech teacher comes in and we're doing reading, she's working right by me, and we may tag team sometimes with a student who's reading a passage where she'll jump in and start asking questions. As I'm working on the reading, she's working on the questions and, okay, tell me the events that happened in the story. And also improving syntax, whether it's their verbs, their noun forms, subject-verb agreement in their speaking as well. And interesting, I have to point out the picture that's on this slide. This is Pat working in a general education classroom. So this is not just for special education classrooms, but also for students who receive speech services in general education as well. Okay, so how do we do it? How do we implement team teaching in the classroom? So when we talk about the co-teaching models, when Pat and I first began doing this, we were very specific in the models that we were using. So we would actually put into our lessons what we were doing, what the lesson was, and how we were going to go about co-teaching that lesson. As we have grown and learned from this process, we no longer do that. Everything really comes naturally for us, so we don't have to be specific. But I've also been in certain situations where I've been the in-class resource teacher, and I've also, with that teacher, have planned specifically for how we are going to go about co-teaching our models. So when you have that plan, when you know what you're going to do and have it in place in writing, it sometimes makes it easier to implement because you're prepared and you're ready to do it. So some of the co-teaching models that we do supportive teaching, where the one teacher is delivering the content, the other one goes around, supports the students. I think this is the one that's often most common that you may see in the classroom, with that one teacher teaching, the other teacher supporting, going around the room, making sure the kids are on task, making sure they're understanding their work. Then complementary teaching is where one teacher is teaching and the other one is doing an enhancement, whether it be writing notes on the board or helping with technology. I think this one, the complementary teaching, is really where you play to teachers' strengths and weaknesses. So when we are doing complementary teaching, I'm usually manning the technology aspects of things, and Pat is usually manning the content of things, especially when it comes to our Chromebooks and making sure the kids are all in the right spot on their work. And then station teaching is where we're providing specific content, but going around rotating. And we do a lot of our station teaching with our centers. This is usually during our guided reading time. A lot of times, it depends on what we're doing for that day. Sometimes the speech teacher may be working with her group at that time, and then we rotate through to the other groups. It may be, however it is for that day of the kids of what we're working with on that day, but we do it on a rotating basis. For the parallel teaching, that is where you split the class in half, and each teacher takes one half of the room, but it's teaching the same content. It's both at the same time, same content. The alternative teaching is when, let's say I'm teaching to a larger group on a certain topic, And then Pat may pull a smaller group. It may be the group that she wants to focus on at that time and delivering different content to them. They're still in the classroom, but we're getting two different types of content. And then the team teaching is what we do most, is basically where we're both teaching at the same time. It's very collaborative. It's very inclusive of everything that we're doing. And the consultation, that one's I think is the toughest, because it's so hard to find time during the day for us to talk together and to consult on what we're thinking, what we're seeing. Honestly, our consultation is usually through texting after hours in the week. Sleep has been totally overrated lately, so we text at all hours of the night on what we're doing in the classroom. But what's interesting, and what I found in doing this for so long with Pat, is that the models kind of blend together throughout one lesson. So you can walk into our classroom and see a lesson where she's teaching and I'm manning the smart board, and then we're teaching together, and then one of us is teaching while another one is walking around and checking on the kids. So the more you do this, the more that each one of these models just kind of organically happens, and you may be hitting a whole bunch of different models all in one lesson. So we can be in the classroom and focus on, the lessons that we're doing, but it's also interesting when you think outside of the box when implementing speech therapies in the classroom. So it can be very simple, or it can be a little bit more complex. So something simple, things that we've done in the past, is that we'd focus on different things during the holidays. So for example, the one picture you see there of Veterans Day, this was a speech activity that we did with the kids where we were giving them directions on where to put different shapes on their paper. And the end result when we were done was that all of the kids created a veteran, and then they decorated it. So we took that, we'd start with one-step directions. We may put in then two-step directions. Sometimes we push it a little bit, give them three-step directions. But that was a great way to implement some goals in their IEP during a holiday. We also love to go work in our makerspace. So we may leave the classroom entirely and go do some activities in a different part of the school. Our makerspace is a great place for that. It gives them, the ability to be creative, to be social, to be able to communicate with each other while we're giving them the steps and directions on projects that we're doing. We're focusing on the information that they're receiving and then what they're expressing. Over the years, the kids have had such a ball in gardening. So we've done that in our makerspace, and following each step on how to, plant seeds and then plant our garden. So that's been really fun for the kids, and also making videos in our makerspace. You can see the one bottom picture, you can see a bit of our green screen in our makerspace. And it's really great for the kids to make those videos and then hear themselves and see themselves. So that's been a very powerful tool in our speech therapies as well. And then we focus on some things that are a bit more complex, that are a bit outside of the norm. One of them is our school store, where every week the school has an opportunity to shop at our school store. They don't use cash. They have to earn $1 from their teacher when they show the pillars of characteristics that we work on as a school. But what's great about this is that our special education classes in our school, they run the store, and we do it just like a school store, where everyone has a job. They have a specific job. They get trained for that job. We rotate every week. We focus on having someone be the greeter. So we're focusing on those social skills. We're focusing on our speech. There's greeters, there's kids that work the floor, there's kids that are cashiers, there's baggers. We have a job for everybody. And again, that is with our speech therapist. There is even, if you're the manager is the coveted position of our store. If you are the manager, then you get to make the opening announcement for the entire school. And Pat goes with that student to the main office to make that announcement. And the other great project that we've been working on, and this started in 2012, was our Cafe Kids. And this is our kitchen that we put into our school. And this is a great way. Every Friday we cook with our kids, and we also run it. So we have our cooking component of it, and then we have our Cafe Kids snack area too, where teachers can buy snacks throughout the day. And our kids keep inventory, they count the money, we decide what are good sellers, what didn't sell, what food should we have coming up for the teachers. And then probably about once a month, we cook a special surprise for the teachers. And the students are the ones that, from start to finish, they take the orders, they cook the meal, and then they deliver to the teachers. So I do have for you a little snippet of what it's like in our Cafe Kids. This was a show that aired on Classroom Close-Up that featured our Cafe Kids program. So I'm gonna play that for you now.
Our focus on this week was OO, and every week we try to incorporate their focus sound into what we're cooking in the cafe every single week.
What 2 letters do we have there, Soma?
We did a quick phonics lesson as to what each button was labeled, and one of them was labeled smooth.
What's our sound this week? Ooh. So it says smooth. Smooth.
As in our smoothies. So that was an aha moment for him, because he was able to sound out that word, knew that the ooh sound was in there, and that was our target sound for the week. And he was so excited.
This is a complete success story. If I was going to make it, I'd make it exactly like that. I mean, you've got kids measuring, and they're wearing their aprons, and they're working in groups, and they've got varying responsibilities, and there's so much learning that goes on during that time. The kids absolutely love it. Any day that the kids are going to spend in that cafe is a very, very positive experience for them.
What makes this combination such a recipe for success?
Because we're co-teaching this, we've got the academics and the speech all together. We're also focusing on their self-esteem, their confidence. We not only focus on what our strengths are, but work to build up our weaknesses.
It's helping me with my words that I can't spell.
The goal for Danielle and Pat is so much more than making smoothies.
We're working on that word sound. We're working on their communication. We're working on following directions, working on reading. All of those things play a part in the end result. The kids are just thrilled that they made smoothies and they delivered them to the teachers.
You're ready to deliver it? Yeah, I'm ready to deliver it. Here's your smoothie.
Oh, thank you, Kala.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sophia.
I like this class so much.
Our first smoothie of the day.
You want learning to be fun. I think these kids need that kind of experience to make it fun. I think everybody needs that. I think we are more successful when we're happy. I love to chew my smoothies. You know, what elementary school shouldn't have happiness as a goal?
Not only are they learning, but they're having a great time and they're feeling good about themselves. And as long as they love it, we'll keep doing it.
And I did mean that. As long as they keep loving it, we'll keep doing it. And we are still working in the cafe every Friday. So all of that happens in a regular non-COVID atmosphere. But now we are in a virtual world. I hear a lot about the concerns for students who are not getting their services delivered during the pandemic. Between last year, when we shut down so quickly and so unexpectedly, until now, I do feel confident in saying that speech was not one of those services that my students missed out on, because we worked so closely together, because Pat and I worked so closely together. When we switched into that virtual world, it was almost seamless, because we kept on going and doing what we were so used to doing when we were in person. And it's funny because when the school year started this year, it was maybe I want to say it was a week and a half, almost 2 weeks into the school year, where my class was the first one that had to be quarantined. And it was, as soon as we, switched over to virtual, we kept to our same schedule. Unfortunately for Pat to rework her schedule with everyone else, I know it's a little more challenging for her, but in terms of my class, and we just kept on going. So there were some things that we definitely learned in going virtual. One of those is we use Google Classroom, that's our platform, to make the therapist a teacher in every classroom. So that way she has access to the links when we meet. She has access to all the work that the kids are doing. She is a teacher in that classroom, so she has all of those capabilities that I do as well. And that's very helpful, because when we are virtual, I notice with my students sometimes when we're working in a group and the kids really want to share, it's a lot of sound coming out all at once. So what has been working well for us is, at times, depending on the lesson, we'll go into breakout rooms where I'll have Pat in one room, I'll have my paraeducators in both of their rooms. The students can all see me and hear me, but they're in their separate rooms, so that way we can give them a little more individualized attention. So in Pat's room, she'll have those kids that she's working on at that time, but they're all still getting the same content. We've also been using videos more often. Pat has been making videos for us with our person of the day when it's that one day of the week where she's not with us. So the kids still see her, even though we're not together at that time. And then for Cafe Kids, that was a little bit of a challenge. And we thought, it's so easy to say, well, we're virtual, we're not going to be able to cook with the kids. But we decided, we put our heads together and we brought all of our special education teachers together. And now what we do is it's like our own food network, where we still cook in the cafe and all the kids join us virtually. So on Monday, all the kids are in they have their Cafe Kids classroom, and on Monday we post the recipe for the kids. And they have the option, if they would like to cook along with us, their parents will buy whatever food that we need for a recipe for that week. And on Friday, they'll cook alongside their parents as we're cooking with them. If they choose not to cook, that's okay. They're still working with us. They're seeing us cook. And what we do is we work our recipes. Each recipe for the week is connected to a story. So on Friday, before we leave for the day, our classes all come together and we read a story. And Pat asks questions to that story, talking about story sequence, whatever goals she's working on with that lesson. And then for the second half of the day, after the kids go home, that's when we cook our recipe. And we always have a Kahoot to go along with the story. Usually the Kahoot goes on while whatever we have is cooking. And then we encourage the students to post pictures. They send us pictures of what they made at home, and we have a bulletin board in our cafe. So that way we can still have them in the cafe with us, but we have their pictures there. And it's really been nice to be able to still have this time with our students. They still have their speech therapy at that time. And what some kids have told me too is that they enjoy cooking at home with their families. And a lot of times they don't have that opportunity to do so. So the fact that, this all-encompassing project that we've done kind of comes full circle and brings it all together for our students. So, it's certainly, going virtual has not been without its challenges, but I think that because we have a strong program in place already, that when we do need to go virtual, and we will be for the next 2 weeks after spring break, but we have the process in place. It's just a matter of changing platforms from in person to now in front of a laptop. So I promised you that I would share with you what our secret sauce is. And the first thing that's always so important is just about relationship building. And we talk about this so much with our students, and to have a positive climate in our classroom, to build relationships, to get to know our students. That also is true for our educators. And I think because Pat and I have been doing this for so long, and we've come to really get to know each other, we're not just colleagues, we're friends. And I think that plays into a lot of how we teach together, because we have a trust between each other. We really know each other's thinking and thoughts. Sometimes we'll say things at the same time without even planning it. But that does take time. And I think that that's one of the hardest things to often establish when you're in a co-teaching situation, is that relationship building and that trust, especially for teachers that may not be used to having other people in their classroom. Sometimes our classroom is like our fortress, and we're safe in here, and we know what we're doing, and we're teaching, and we have control of that. But when you bring another person into the mix, sometimes that disrupts the balance of what your normal day is like. So it's about building relationships, building trust, and really working towards that relationship. Another key thing is to provide training. So we did not have training on this when we started. It was something that we wanted to tackle, we were interested in. We did research on our own and just built it from there. But I hear often how co-teaching doesn't always work. It's not always the best situation. And I often wonder what training was provided to those teachers prior to implementing their co-teaching. I know when I first started in 1997, I was an in-class support teacher, and I was a new teacher, never taught in a classroom before. And here I am now going into someone else's classroom to teach. I did not get any training on it. I had wonderful teachers that I worked with, and they kind of led me along the way. But training really is key, especially in the different models, and to know how you're going to go about the co-teaching. Communicating, open lines of communication, always so important. Being able to share materials and develop planning materials. That time to plan, oh, that's always so difficult. So we find creative ways now that we have our Google Docs and things that we can share online. It's certainly much easier. And of course, as I said, we're always texting each other. What do you think about this? How about this in the classroom? Engaging in joint decision-making. I know I heard myself throughout this presentation as I said we or our, and that's just out of habit of it's our classroom, and this is what we're doing because we are engaging together in this space. It's not my students, it's our students, and that's just something that, we promote family in our classroom, and that comes from the top down, from the teachers down to our kids. So it really is a joint decision with the both of us. And of course, involving administrators and parents. When we have back to school night, if I can't have the service providers join me in back to school night, I always have a slide where I introduce all of them and tell them about, a little bit about each of them. And I always talk to them about our way that we do speech therapy and how it's in the classroom. And 9 times out of 10, within a month or two of school, after it started, I get the question of, my child's not getting speech. Shouldn't they be getting speech? And that's where I explain how we do our speech therapy. And I honestly have never had a parent upset with the program or not happy with what we're doing. They really like the fact that their child is in class all day and they're getting their therapies as well. And of course, involving administrators as well. We wouldn't do anything without, of course, administrator knowledge or administrator approval. We are upheld by the IEP, so we need to make sure that what we are doing is rock solid and that we're implementing what we are, what we're supposed to be doing, and that the administrators know what we're doing and that they're involved as well. And above all, the key to all of this is to have fun. And that's really what we do. We have a lot of laughs. We have, really good times together. It's so nice to have another adult in the classroom to be able to teach with. We have fun with our para-educators as well. We really are, like one big family. We work so well together, and it makes the time pass so quickly, when you've got other adults to bounce off of, and we really enjoy it. So I will definitely be a little sad next year when Pat has retired. I'm very happy for her that she's able to do that. But I will miss her dearly because she is like a part of my family. And that's all because of what we've been doing over the past 10 plus years in integrating speech into our classrooms. But I've definitely seen the benefits to my students. I've seen the benefits to me. It has helped me grow as an educator because I'm learning from her and I'm helping my students with what I'm learning from her. So the benefits were just astronomical, and I'm very proud to be in a program where I can do this with our speech therapists. And I do want to mention too that our occupational therapist does pull in with us as well. A lot of times she'll do the first half of her time and then she'll pull the kids, but we do incorporate occupational therapy as well, even collaboration with our OT. She made little handwriting checklists for the kids. She's like, do you want these? I'm like, oh yes, I want them. And we gave them to all the kids, whether they get OT or not. So you definitely can implement other therapies in the classroom as well. And that takes us right to our ending time. So I certainly would love to open it up if you have any questions or if there's anything I can clarify for you. I also have my email address up here as well. So you are welcome to email me if it's something speech related that I can't answer for you. I will consult with my expert in my school. So if there's any questions, I would be more than happy.
Dr. Kovach, this has been so good. We've got a lot of ideas, thoughts, and questions that have come into the chat. I think you've really gotten us thinking, to say the least.
Oh, great.
So for all of you out there who are participating, my name is Jeremy Glauser. I'm helping to moderate and keep track of those questions. So if you have any of those, please go ahead and put them into the chat. You'll find the chat by going down to the bottom of the Zoom screen, clicking on the icon that says chat, and then typing and entering that question into that area. And we will spend the remaining time that we have going through a Q&A. So a lot of these seem to be operational. And the one that we first got into was just a clarification. When you talk about 4 times, you're talking about 4 times per week, not 4 times per day. Is that true?
Well, we do our morning, yes, I know what you're referring to. So our morning meeting, the speech therapist is in with us 4 times a week because that one day she goes to another school. Mm-hmm. And then throughout the rest of the day, she pushes in at different times depending on her schedule and the students that she's with at that time. So she's awesome. In and out of my room all day. Yeah.
Okay. So that actually builds onto this other question that Monica had, which is how much time each day is the SLP in your classroom?
It varies from day to day and it goes by the students' IEPs. So I don't have my schedule offhand with me right now, but I know in the morning she's with us from at least an hour, hour and a half, and then she pops in sometimes within 30-minute increments, an hour, however it is with the students. So it really depends on the IEP.
That's great. And we have an honest question. How are there enough SLPs to cover all students on the caseload?
Well, that's a really good question. And I will say that I know our speech therapists in my district work incredibly hard. And how they schedule and how they do it, I don't know. In my building, we only have one. So I know that she, especially in the virtual world, I know that she does meet with students virtually well after school hours, just so that way she can get everyone in. So
gotcha.
It's a lot, but they make it work. They work their magic and they make it work.
Yeah, that's their magic, right? So yeah. Do you have a sense of how many students are on each of their caseloads?
I honestly, I don't know. I know, I mean, just in my classroom, there's 10. So she has, I mean, and she has her students that are, in special education classified, and then she has just her students who are receiving speech therapies. So she's got her 2 groups of students that she works with. I couldn't even throw out a number. I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure whatever number I say is not right, and it's too low.
Well, maybe what we can do is, because we did have a few questions about the therapist capacity for this and caseloads. So maybe what we can do is we can work with you, Dr. Kovach, to put together a little bit more of that information. And when we
Absolutely.
send out a recording of the webinar and the slide resources, we could maybe answer that question a little bit more. So we'll work with you after the fact.
Yes, and I can get that information from her.
Yeah, that would be great. So we had a couple more questions that are along those same lines. So I'm going to skip down here to Erica's question, which is this service model considered a billable service in Medicaid? Or do you know?
I do not know. That's beyond my scope of knowledge, but that I can find out. I do know that our speech providers are ours in our district. They're not consultants outside of the district, they're ours. So I don't know if that plays into answering your question.
Yeah, and I think Erica, it will depend by state. So Dr. Kovach is in New Jersey. And so if you're in a different state, then the Medicaid rules and regulations are going to be different. So this will probably be something that we would recommend you go back to your district, administration and ask, but maybe we can find out a little bit more, Dr. Kovach, about your own situation.
Yes, I do know that when we do have IEP meetings, that parents do get a request to sign off, and I believe that's for Medicaid, so that might be a yes to your answer, but I don't want to say for sure if that's the same thing. But I can find out.
So I'm trying to bounce back and forth here. Okay.
If it helps for those people that are not in New Jersey, we have our case managers that handle our IEPs, that put the IEPs together, that schedule meetings. My responsibility in IEP is their academic level of functioning, their goals and objectives. So I know that in other states, some teachers are the case manager for those IEPs. But in my case, in New Jersey, we have our case managers that handle those things. So some of the components that I'm not as familiar with in an IEP and those kind of things is because our case managers handle them. We're very fortunate in New Jersey.
So the next question is around inclusivity. How does inclusivity affect those students who are easily distracted, those that have auditory processing deficits and require more of a quiet environment or a more structured environment?
Well, again, putting services in the classroom may not be the best fit for every student. And that's why we need to focus on our students individually for their needs. If we do see that a student is struggling with integrated speech, then we would pull them out and give them the services that they need, either individually or in a small group. What I do find is that with having more people involved, we have a smaller adult to child ratio that we can help the kids stay more focused. And usually, I have 4 adults in my room most times during the day. So that really helps us to have someone near, at every time. So it does help. I do have an amplified auditory system in my classroom as well that helps with my students too.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it all depends on a student's needs.
So this question builds on that. Is this mainly speaking of a self-contained class?
I am in a self-contained classroom, yes.
And so that answers one of the other questions that we've got. This question is, are these specific examples of inclusion in a self-contained classroom? What about inclusion in the gen ed setting? And would you have any recommendations there?
Yes, and one of the pictures that I showed is a classroom that our speech therapist does go into in gen ed as well. I think that sometimes it's, absolutely can be in a general education setting as well. Sometimes it's a little more difficult to get into a general education setting just because sometimes gen ed teachers might need that buy-in, where sometimes special ed teachers are, I've got a lot of people in my room already, come on in, the more the merrier. So it depends on a teacher's comfort level on that and how they feel about having a teacher in the classroom. I think also what may play into this, and this is just my thoughts because I'm not the speech teacher, you may not get such a big group of kids in one room to service, where if you've got one child from this room, one child from that, one to there, that to go into each one of those classrooms may not be conducive in the schedule, where you can pull, you know, from 3 different classrooms, 3 different kids and put them into, you know, the therapy area. It may work better in a schedule as well. So I guess it all depends on situations as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And we have a good comment. This isn't a question, but from Marva, as an SLP, this is so refreshing hearing this from a classroom teacher. I love these ideas.
Oh, thank you.
And then another comment, you are all educators in the classroom, and this is a powerful way of providing services. All right, so let's get to the next question. I would love to hear about the speech language pathologist schedule. Do you go into one classroom per grade level, or do you have time carved out for individual sessions as well? How many students on your caseload? I would love to know about the logistics to make integrated speech successful. There's a lot of parts to that. So
Yeah.
let me go back to the first part and we can start there. Do you go into one classroom per grade level?
I'm going to, in just thinking about what her day is like, I know that she goes into well, and keep in mind too, I don't always have one grade level. Sometimes I have multi-grade levels. So like last year I was 2nd and 3rd. So she did come into my classroom and it was a multi-level grade. This year we have a 2nd LLD and a 3rd LLD, and I know that she pushes into both of our rooms. So when it's a multi-grade level, and keep in mind too, my classroom, my school is only 2nd and 3rd grade. So we are all 2nd and 3rd grade. So, you know, it's not a large mix of grade levels.
Thank you for that. And I think that clarifying that this is a self-contained classroom versus, you know, another classroom setting does help answer some of the curiosities and questions. Here it says, and we might need to follow up with Pat, but do you have time carved out for individual sessions as well?
That I know she does, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we'll find out some about the caseload and the scheduling and we'll send that out afterwards.
Absolutely.
I think that will help answer some of the additional points in Corey's question. So let me just go here. I'm skimming through to, let's see here. The next question, we got some comments, and then I'm jumping to a question from Michelle. Let's see. Oh, that was sorry. That one was for a request around the recording. Yes, this webinar has been recorded, is being recorded, and we will distribute to those who've registered along with the resources that we've shared. And this question from Lindsay asks, how many speech pathologists are there in your school? I think that you said that there's one in your building. And so she just serves that one school, correct?
She serves my one school, and then 1 day a week she's at our other elementary school. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay. A question from Rochelle. So it is a co-taught when she is in your room because you two work it that way, right? It is really a push-in service, right? Yes. 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 Right. It's a co-teaching and push-in service model, to be clear. Yes. And in your mind, so there's a question from Sarah. In your mind, is there a difference between co-teaching and inclusion services? Well, I think so. For us, my classroom is a self-contained LLD, language learning disabled classroom. So when we integrate the services, we're co-teaching. But I think it's different when you are teaching an in-class resource classroom with another general education teacher and you're co-teaching throughout the day. So where the services are integrated and we're providing them at the same time co-teaching, we are not in an in-class resource setting, if that makes sense. I don't know if that answered the question.
I think so. It's really just the difference between co-teaching and inclusion.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, we've got just a few minutes left and questions keep coming in. So I'm scanning down here to find ones that we haven't talked about. There is some confusion, I think, about the Medicaid. Just to harken back, the Medicaid rules may be the same, but the Medicaid reimbursement would be different state by state. I don't know if we were talking about reimbursement or the rules around Medicaid, but that is something that you would definitely want to work with your district administration to understand better. Okay, let's see. Here's a good question that I think we should get to from Sarah. If the therapist would see students outside the school day, are they on a different contract time than the teachers?
No, no, they're on a same contract time. I know that it's difficult in the virtual world that we're in to make sure that you make sure that you cover all of those, all of your students virtually. So it's just something that she's been doing to make sure that she can reach all of her students. Normally, I mean, in normal situations, you know, she'd be covering everything fine in the classroom, but now because of virtual situations, it's a scheduling, difficult to schedule everyone virtually. So sometimes it does go beyond the school day or during her lunchtime. I know that she's a very dedicated speech teacher and she needs to make sure she hits everybody.